this is a part of our mission, for part of our goals for 2021 and a part of our strategic plan for networking is adding value to membership, where members can listen to other members, hear their stories, and hopefully we get those folks to network with one another and maybe trade business with one another. That's the whole goal. And in 2021, the Chamber wants to stay as relevant as possible, even if we're in a digital world. Our goal is to stay relevant with you, the business community. So one of those things is our seminars, our virtual seminars. And this gives an opportunity for a company to talk about things that they do within their industry. And today we've got some great folks, Ben and Brian Royster from Royster Royster. I've worked with these guys several times. I've never met them in person, which shame on me. I need to come down there and see them. I know they're very busy and we've all got things to do. But if you're looking for, things that they cover personal injury, workers' compensation, civil litigation, criminal defense, and real estate. And what is really incredible is they've been a family business serving individuals and families in the businesses in Stokes County, Surrey County, with high quality legal representation since 1979. That is very impressive, and they obviously know what they're doing to be around that long in and around Surrey County. So I'm not going to waste a lot of time. I do want to tell you that we do have more of these events planned. We have virtual seminars once a month, and then our virtual mixers happen every single Thursday starting at 10 and going until 11 o'clock. Our mission is to advance and promote and encourage successful business growth for you. And that's what we're doing today, and we hope that it'll be a benefit to you guys as we recognize some of our business advocates in the region. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to Ben and Brian Royster.
Thank you.
Thanks, Travis. Just to introduce ourselves, I am Brian, and Ben is in the sweater this morning. As Travis said, we've been around since 1979. That was actually before I was born. So our dad and uncle, they started the business, and now it's myself, Ben's got a twin brother, Mark, and we're the three that manage the law firm, along with another attorney that we have in the office, Denise Perdue. And what we're going to talk about today is just a common thing that everybody either has experienced or knows someone who has experienced this, and that's getting involved in a motor vehicle accident. And this is just going to tie into one of the areas of practice that we do, which is personal injury. And we're going to, at the end, we'll kind of go over some general information and also discuss some other types of law that we practice. And if anyone has any questions at any point in time, absolutely feel free to interrupt us or however you want to do it. So just to get started, the types of cases that we're going to talk about today are any cases where liability insurance applies. And that's going to be if you're out driving in your car and you get involved in an accident, and it's someone else's fault. That's going to be a situation where liability insurance applies. And what liability insurance is, it's insurance that any individual who is driving a vehicle in North Carolina is required to have in effect. Minimum limits that someone is required to carry in North Carolina can be $30,000 per person and $60,000 per accident. What that means is if someone hits you and you don't have any insurance of your own and they have insurance, then you're going to be stuck with whatever limits that they have. So as we go on, we're going to talk about just some suggestions that we have as far as what type of insurance you should carry and just kind of the different types of insurance. But the types of cases where liability insurance is going to apply are going to be cases like a car accident, a trucking accident, or a motorcycle accident. And then the less common ones are going to be pedestrian accidents. If you're walking along going through a crosswalk and someone runs a red light and hits you. If you're riding a bicycle down the road and another vehicle hits you. Those are situations in which you're potentially entitled to a recovery because it is someone else's fault. It is not necessary for you to be operating a motor vehicle for this type of insurance to apply. It just simply needs to involve a motor vehicle where it is someone else's fault.
And so these are some recommendations if you are in an accident. At the scene of the accident, what we would suggest you do. And frankly, this is whether you are at fault or not at fault. The first thing that you need to do is certainly call 911 or the police. If you do not do that, complications will arise later. Most of the insurance companies, when they investigate these cases, the first thing they're going to do is look at the police report to determine who was at fault or determine who the witnesses were in the case. If you do not call 911 or get a police report, and then instead you try to report it to your insurance company a few days later, you will typically face significant resistance when they're looking at whether or not this accident should be covered. And again, that's whether you're at fault or not at fault. You need to call need to make sure that the police come and do a report. Don't feel the need to talk to the other driver. Certainly you can check to see if they're okay, but you don't need to have a discussion on the side of the road about who was at fault or not at fault. You can talk to the police officer when they arrive, or you can talk to your insurance company when you call them to set up a potential claim. Cooperate with law enforcement, EMS, or other emergency. If this is a case that ends up going to court, in other words, if you have a trial in the case, one of the witnesses that you're going to have would be the police officer, and that police officer is going to have to testify before a jury or a judge and let them know what happened. And you certainly don't want to be framed in the light of, well, they didn't talk to me, they didn't cooperate with me, and they didn't tell me any of the issues that they were having at the time. And it also goes with EMS and other emergency folks that arrive. They write reports, and those reports typically cover the conversation they have with you and the observations they make at the time of the accident. And so you need to make sure, one, that you are being cooperative, but two, you're following their advice at the time of the accident. If necessary, go to the hospital or seek medical treatment. It's not the time to be macho. A lot of folks, and I can tell you from personal experience, I was in an accident, decided I did not want to go to the hospital and seek treatment. And certainly, I had some issues down the road, and that impacted my recovery in my case as well. But you need to go get checked out, not just for your insurance case. You need to go get checked out because you want to make sure that you don't have any significant injuries in the case. And some of these injuries don't show up until later, but you need to make sure that you are evaluated by a medical professional, not just a police officer, not just a family member, and certainly not your lawyer. You need to talk to a medical professional to evaluate whether or not you have any medical issues. And certainly if they are emergent, they need to be treated immediately. Then you also need to take pictures of yourself, your vehicle, and your vehicle at the scene of the accident. Vehicles get moved quickly. One of the things that you're going to be asked about by your insurance company is certainly what happened. They're going to want to know your injuries. They're going to want to know what the car looked like. And I can tell you from experience that if you don't have pictures of your car, if you don't have pictures of yourself, then these are things that are difficult to turn around later and argue to an insurance company or to a judge or a jury. People and juries rely heavily these days, as most people in the community do, on picture evidence and on video evidence. Everybody has their cell phones out. Everybody knows that people have the ability to gather that evidence, and so they're going to want to see that later down the road. So make sure you take those pictures of yourself and your car at the time of the accident.
And we understand too that it's not always possible to take pictures,
Right.
But if you have family members, then you can certainly ask them to do it as well. But obviously, if you're in a serious accident and you're transported to the hospital, we don't expect to see pictures. So it's not a necessity, but it is something, again, that will certainly help you out going down the road. Now, once you get to the hospital, these are just some general recommendations. Obviously, you want to cooperate with your treating physician and follow their recommended treatment. From time to time, we'll have clients that go into the hospital. They have bad attitudes, and it's all noted in your medical records. So when you're talking with your doctor about what happened and how you're feeling, sometimes you've got different emotions that are obviously running high. You've been involved in a situation where you might not be feeling as good as you normally feel, and you might not be in the state of mind that you're typically in. But just remember that everything that you tell your doctor is going to be written down, and that will be provided to the insurance company in your medical records at a later time. Obviously, you want to follow their recommended treatment. That's why you're there in the first place, is to seek their expertise on what your diagnosis is and what you need to do moving forward.
Right. And that doesn't mean blindly follow. I mean, you obviously use your common sense, but if your doctor's telling you this is what you need to do to recover, make sure you do that so that you recover, one, and two, that you have been compliant when it comes time to making a case to a jury or making a case to the insurance company.
The other important thing, if you are in the hospital or if you do have to go to the hospital for any reason, is make sure the hospital is aware of your health insurance if you have it. And the reason why you want to do that is, again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, as far as what the minimum limits are in North Carolina. If you don't have insurance that covers yourself, and I mean that as far as automobile insurance, and you're strictly relying on the insurance of another individual who hits you, you may be limited to $30,000 in the accident. If you end up having to go to Baptist Hospital and they have to run x-rays, they have to run CAT scans, they have to keep you there for a day, then in that one single day, you're probably going to have a hospital bill that is in excess of $30,000. What the hospitals don't like to do is file it on your insurance. And the reason they don't like to file it on your insurance is because they're going to get less compensation from you as opposed to what they're going to get from the liability insurance company. So, and they're required by law to file it on your health insurance. If you have it, then they are required to file it on your health insurance. But a lot of times it takes some haggling with them before they ultimately will file it on your health insurance. But just understand that in the end, if it's not your fault and you do receive any kind of medical attention or treatment, then you're going to be required to pay that back. And if the hospital bill is $30,000 and you only have a $30,000 recovery, you can run into some issues where potentially you could be involved in an accident that's not your fault, where you ultimately end up owing money. So the safe thing always is to tell the hospital you have health insurance and want it filed on that. After you finish with your appointment or with your treatment, make sure that you ask your doctor about any recommended follow-up treatments. And that's going to either be with the doctor that you saw at the hospital, or they recommend you to follow up with your primary care provider. And it's always important to do that because, as Ben stated earlier, when you're involved in an accident, injuries don't always necessarily surface right away. So you may feel okay the day that you leave the hospital, but a couple of days later, and everybody knows this, as you get older, you start to feel more aches and pains, especially, in the colder weather or whatever type of year it is, or whatever type of the part of the year it is. Things start to linger. So just make sure that you keep close attention to the recommendations of your doctor, and if they recommend you to follow up with somebody, then that's what you should be doing.